Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. I'm Marcus Single, and this is the podcast where we teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. And as often happens, I have in the podcast studio with me today, the Hotness.
Good day.
Good day, like an Australian. Good day.
Good day.
Good day. All right. So one of the questions I think Marveline will attest to that whenever we're out on the road, a lot of people ask me about Elliott. It would just go without saying because I've got a 70-pound yellow lab by my side all the time that people have questions, and when they learn that we are not from the area that often we have touched down in, they're asking, where does your dog sit on the plane? And that's a question that I get, probably one of the most frequent questions I get. And you've heard people ask this. And the next question that they ask then is, does he get his own seat?
Which I love that question because I always picture walking down an airplane aisle and him sitting in a seat strapped in. And I think that would just be hilarious.
He's got a little bag of peanuts.
The tray table down.
A tray table. He's got headphones in. That would be pretty funny. Little sleep shade on. But yes,
window or aisle, sir.
Window. Yes. And he's like, tapping on the armrest. Can I get bumped up to first class, please? I am
Put your chair in a
I'm a
right
very
position,
special
sir.
dog. Yeah. Oh gosh. So the answer to that question is no. I do not buy a ticket for Elliott. That would be $300 or $400 for an individual seat. I love him, but he can curl up on the floor. That's how he was trained, and he's happiest down there on the floor. Well, maybe not happiest if he gets snatched.
If he had first class, he might.
If he had first
want
class,
his
he
own
might
seat.
be. But so I don't know. A month or so ago, we were flying a good long flight, 4-hour flight across the country, and Elliott, of course, was on the floor. And let me set the scenario. Marveline actually was the one who should tell this story because I was asleep for part of it. But we were on a Southwest Airlines flight, 3 across the row, the Hotness at the window, me in the middle, and a completely random person that we did not know on the aisle seat. And I'll let you pick it up from there.
This was it was a very unique flight because one, you sat in the middle, which doesn't always happen. It was a long flight, 3 in a row. I was on the window, early morning flight. And we were on the flight we got on about 7 a.m. and packed. Not looking forward to this flight, honestly, because of the length. And 7 a.m. we get on first.
And we're looking forward to just going to sleep.
Going to sleep, man. Getting the miles behind us. And one of the last people on was this small young woman.
20 years old or so, right?
Yeah, mid-20s. And she slips down in a seat, one of the last people to board. She slips down next to you. And we're like, okay, that's good. Let's go. And before our wheels had left do they call tarmac?
Tarmac, yeah, before takeoff.
Before takeoff, she pulls out a party-sized bag of Funyuns. Now, it's just not the most polite thing to eat on a plane is stinky food. It happens, but it's not the most polite thing to eat something as stinky as Funyuns, although I occasionally like some Funyuns myself.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Funyuns are pretty awesome.
But not on an airplane,
you don't eat them close to people. And you might want to only eat them outdoor where the fumes, don't toxically poison other people.
And a party-sized bag. I snuck a picture because, not of her face, but just of this tiny little woman with this big party-sized bag of Funyuns. I'm like, what? So that started the flight. So, okay.
But it doesn't really bother us. She's just snacking along and we're going to sleep.
It's like, okay, it was more funny than anything else. So I, sneak my pillow back up and I'm trying to sleep through the fumes of Funyuns. And I'm kind of laughing and going, okay, here we go. So we get up and we're an hour or so into the flight when you wake me up.
I had to wake you up because Elliot was on the floor and he kept moving around. And it was a movement like he was lunging and like he was going for something. And he's a lab, so what's he going to be going for? Food, crumbs, snacks, etc. And I would pull him back and he would just lunge for it again, and I'd pull him back and he'd lunge for it again. And it's pretty tight, cramped up in this area. And so I think I had to wake you up, and I tapped you and I said, "Hey, is Elliot getting at something down there? Is he got something in his mouth? What's he doing?" And
And
that's when we discovered
that not
that
only did she have Funyuns, she had a picnic
an
in her.
entire picnic in her backpack because Elliot had pulled out a plastic bag with at least a half a dozen huge sugar
Homemade
cookies.
sugar cookies. So I pulled something out of his mouth, and it's a Ziploc baggie with giant homemade sugar cookies and icing that he has chewed through, and the sugar cookies have all bites out of them. I don't know how many he's eaten at this point or what else he's eaten from. She had her bag open on the floor, and he's helped himself to her picnic.
When
We don't
she's got 5 pounds of sugar cookies and a Costco-sized bag of Funyuns, who knows
what
whatever else?
else?
Yes, and the poor young lady. I was embarrassed. Of
Horrified,
course, I'm
mortified.
scared. That she's going to be hateful towards me for my dog rooting around in her bag that she had left open right next to his nose.
Right.
But nonetheless, I'm scared and embarrassed that there's going to be an issue, but that wasn't what you were scared of.
Well, and she by the way was very kind.
She's
She was
so good.
horrified that she had left it open,
Yeah.
and she felt bad that she had left that near a dog, and we were felt bad that he had helped himself to her picnic. So neither one of us, there was no conflict between us at all. We both, felt bad, and she removed the picnic, and we, turned Elliot around, but we didn't know what he had.
We didn't know how much he had eaten,
And
what
what he
he had
had eaten.
eaten.
Did he also get in the Funyuns? Was
Right.
there a 6 foot sub down there that he had eaten?
Did he eat a
So
plastic bag?
did he
Right?
through the
Is there
bag? Was
something that
there
could be dangerous?
chocolate? What else had he done? So so we kind of sit there, and I'm a little nervous. And then about 20 minutes later, and we're always sit near the front when we can. So we were near the front. uh, there became this really, really hellacious smell. I'm just going to say it. This really horrific smell. And about that time, this gentleman comes out of the bathroom and walks by. And I thought to myself, I'm glad I don't have to use the bathroom because it was really bad. So I think this gentleman had a stomach issue. So I thought, man, that's got to be that's got to be rough on a flight because we had about 2 hours left to go on this flight at this point. So I sit there, and about 15 minutes, I smell it again, and that gentleman is nowhere in sight. And I think, oh, wow, well, it must not have been that gentleman. So I look around and I think, I wonder who did that. Then about 10 minutes later, I smell it again. And all of a sudden, I think, oh my goodness, it's
What if it's
Elliot.
Elliot? Right.
It's Elliot, and his stomach must be irritated by whatever he helped himself to in that picnic.
And that will send the fear of God into
Oh my
you
goodness!
when you've got a
Because
dog in public in an airline.
when if a dog were to get sick on a plane, that becomes a toxic emergency, and they will ground the plane. Is my understanding. Because they can't have that on a plane. They don't know if that's sick. That
If a dog were to have
were to
diarrhea or vomit on a plane, they could potentially have to ground that flight.
Correct.
We
That's
don't want
that's my
that.
thought. They would ground the flight. Everybody on the plane will be mad at us and disrupt. I mean, that would be a terrible situation. We've never had anything like that happen. Oh my goodness. So I'm sitting there. I think Mark's asleep. Right, gone back to sleep. He's relaxed, my anxiety starts climbing and climbing and climbing. And Elliot's acting fine, but this smell continues. Now it's happening every 7 or 8 minutes. And for the last probably 2 hours of the flight, my stomach is now in complete knots, and I'm going, oh my goodness, and I'm thinking, what can I do?
What's the
Can
possibility here? Is he
what
going to get
is he going to
sick?
get sick? How can I prevent this? Should I find diapers and tie them around Elliot? Should I? Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Can I take him in the bathroom and just wait it out? Oh my goodness. And I'm having all of these anxieties, and I'm looking up where's the closest bathroom when we land. They have doggy pet areas when we land. And I'm going through every possibility, and how can we just make it till we land? Is Elliot going to be okay? Is he sick? Is he miserable? Are we going to have an explosion on the plane? A potty explosion? How horrific is this going to be and disrupt everybody? And I'm not worried that he's going to die. I'm worried that he's going to be miserable and cause a catastrophe for everybody.
And what happened? Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Elliot was fine. We're not even sure if it was him who was dropping the stink bombs on the
I'm
plane.
pretty sure it was not. I think it was you.
Oh, it could have been. That's certainly possible.
It was nothing.
But it
I
was
made myself
nothing.
sick.
You made yourself sick with anxiety and
I mean, I didn't get actually sick.
Right, but catastrophizing to the point of getting yourself worked up, right?
My last 2 hours of the flight were nail biters. It was
Yeah,
miserable for
yeah.
me, for no reason, over something I could not change.
Right, right. And I wonder how often do we do that? I know I do it a lot. I catastrophize a lot. And I think of it, what's the word? I excuse it by saying, well, I'm just planning. I've got contingency plans.
Right.
Well, if this would happen, then I'll do this. And if this would happen, then I'll do this. And I think that that's also maybe a trauma response to a certain extent, an anxiety response.
Anxiety, trauma,
But it reminds me,
stress.
how often do we get caught up in catastrophizing what might happen, and then it
It
doesn't
doesn't.
happen?
Thankfully.
Doesn't happen. It so reminds me of one of my favorite lines from Mark Twain is where he says, I'm an old man and I've known many worries in my life, most of which never came true. Most of which never came true.
Yeah.
When I start catastrophizing too much, I remember that there is great wisdom in the words of my homeboy from Missouri, Mark Twain. Most of those worries that we have never come true.
Yes. Thank
Yeah,
goodness they don't.
thank
And
goodness.
and you know, if we and oh my goodness, if we can stop and get a hold of ourselves, if we can get it, but catch it before it spirals out of control. I know that's a big key for me. Catch it before it spirals out of control, and stop and go. Wait, 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 wait.
This is
Okay,
not probably going to end up with me living on the street, being homeless, my family having to eat out of trash cans. It's
and
not
can
probably
I
going to
do
happen.
anything about it?
Can I do anything about it? And what
Can
will
I stop
happen?
it?
I think we all catastrophize quite a bit. I I know that I probably do it more than the average person, so please don't think I'm some kind of super expert. But as Marveline said, if you can catch yourself in the beginning before it becomes a downward spiral, before it becomes insidious into your psyche, stopping and taking a moment to breathe, to come back to the present moment, and to think, okay, if the worst would happen, I can handle it. If the worst would happen, I'm still going to be okay. Sometimes that's easier said than done,
It's
but
usually easier
easier
said than
said than done. But I think if we can get some perspective about what are our real problems and what are the problems that we imagine, that's where I think that we can find some grace and some healing too. So, anything
yeah.
else?
No, just that all it all ended well.
It all ended well. Elliot didn't have a problem. He just slept through the whole
He
thing.
slept through it fine, and he was looking at me like, "Mama, are you okay?"
And even when we got off the plane at the next destination and went to a doggy relief area, he just peed and that was it.
Yep,
So
he was cool.
it was a lot more of a problem for Marlene, and Elliot just apparently got a good snack.
Right, he just enjoyed the snack. So, thanks for the picnic, lady.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody so much for tuning into this episode of Compassion and Courage Conversations in Healthcare. This is the podcast where we teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. Thank you to everyone who has shared and subscribed and rated and reviewed and commented on podcast episodes. We really, really appreciate the engagement. Thank you so much.